Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a terrific day ahead of you and a very good game week as well. In today's edition of SYP, I take a look at Arsenal assets in some more depth, Chelsea assets in some more depth, both of whom have very good fixture runs coming up, and two teams that we're looking to target. In addition to that, I look at some of the more important players outside of those teams, including Nick Voltemade, Bruno Fernandes, players essentially you could want, you may want to sell, you may want to buy, as well as, of course, looking at the staple piece, which is benching dilemmas. But before all of that, and straight after this introduction, a look at the wildcard changes that are made following the team selection yesterday. Nothing too drastic, but certainly some big talking points, which I shall go through. So that's what you got to look forward to today. If at any point you enjoy, a like, a hype, a subscribe, all would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for all your support as always, and let's get into it. Right, what you see on screen is my wildcard from yesterday, and this is how I was looking to line up with one Burnley defender at home to Leeds, Senesi, Anderson, Richards, and Pope as my completed back line. However, there have been two changes to the team, and there's been another change to the starting 11 as well, as I shall show you. Right, what's the first change to the team? Well, it's really a dual move. Richards has left the team in place of Mr. Daniel Munoz himself. I just really fancy Munoz to get a goal or an assist at some point in the next 4, excluding Arsenal, maybe 5 or 6 as well. And I think this game in particular has a good chance of DEFCON, considering what Truffert and Semenya will offer going forward. And then the other move I've made to essentially fund that is to sell Nick Pope and to go and buy Sanchez. Now, if this draft was on my FPL page, ignore this, the minus 0.8 in the bank, I can't afford it. If this draft was on my FPL page, transfers page, it would say minus 0.1 million in the bank. I currently own Nick Voltemade due to me trying to catch some price rises. If he goes up by 0.1 as he's predicted to do, I'll have had a 0.2 rise on him, so I can sell him for a 0.1 profit. Hopefully as well, João Pedro drops because I sold him at 7.6, and if he doesn't drop, he'll be 7.7, so I won't have made that 0.1. So I need Voltemade to rise and João Pedro to drop, and if that happens, I will be able to afford this magnificent, beautiful draft. If that doesn't happen, well then I'm pretty sure I'm going to downgrade Senesi to Diakate. I don't think that's the end of the world. I mean, Diakate's got pretty close to DEFCON twice, he's got it twice, and he's a set-piece threat to an extent as well. So that's what I'm currently planning. Those were the only changes to the team in terms of the transfers, but Martin Dubravka does start over Robert Sanchez. I think Forest's attack have been a little bit unlucky so far. I think Forest in general and Ange Postecoglou have been a bit unlucky so far. And with the quality attack, early kickoff, at home, and how our defense is, which I'll speak about shortly, I think we could concede. And as such, I'm happy to bench Sanchez. There was a strong consideration for me to not have Senesi in this spot, but rather have Sven Botman. He, in his own right, very good on DEFCON. Newcastle with that, the variations of the 4-5-1, the 5-4-1, whatever they employ, 4-3-3, obviously at times on the ball, they've been very good defensively. Very solid. The statistics as well, not just the eye test, but the statistics are amazing. So there definitely was a consideration. But for reasons mainly due to how the fixtures coincide with the rest of the defense, including Munoz, Esteve, and Anderson, I felt it better just to get Senesi now. And also, I bought him at 4.9, so I'm essentially saving myself 0.1 that I would down the line. The rest stays the same. It's just those two changes. So this week, it will be Dubravka, and it'll be Dubravka instead of Pope, and that's no. If the last draft had Richards here, yes, it's and I was going to play Esteve there, so it's Dubravka instead of Pope this week. And then you can see next week the defense is again really nice. I mean, I'll play Sanchez at home to Sunderland, and obviously Pope would have had Fulham at home. I'd say that's definitely a harder fixture, so that's quite nice. Now I can bring Senesi in for this fixture, Forest at home. Do I think they could concede? Yeah, I think he could concede all of his next 4, which is why I'm only playing him in this game. But he's probably going to get DEFCON in this fixture, so it's a nice floor raiser. And Esteve versus Wolves compared to Anderson away at Newcastle, I'll toss this one up because he's pretty much guaranteed DEFCON, I feel like, Anderson in that game. So again, a nice floor raiser where the defense for this particular game week isn't so strong. Going back to game week 8, one thing I realized I didn't speak about is Burnley's prospects. I look at Leeds and I see a side that certainly can score goals. Scott Parker spoke about tightening up today. And as such, given that their performance against Liverpool at home and their performance against Sunderland at home, when they went for at least against Liverpool, more defensive approach, was actually quite solid. I will back them to get the job done because I really don't want to play Senesi because I think he concedes. Does he get DEFCON? Yeah, probably, but I think he definitely concedes or close to it. Anderson, I'm expecting him to concede, and Sanchez as well. So I thought I'm just going to go for these two boys who have the highest odds of a clean sheet. And you know what? Esteve can definitely get DEFCON. He can get saves. I'm not doing it for the upside. I'm really not, but that's just how it's played out. If Leeds kept a clean sheet and it was the other way around and I could have gone Sanchez and Rodon, I wouldn't be too surprised. But that's what I'm rocking with because it's also useful for me down the line, right? If I don't want to play Anderson, then I definitely don't want to. I don't want Rodon against Bowen. I decided that I'd rather have Esteve away at Wolves. So again, some more utility there. But it's mainly for this game week. It's mainly for this game week that I've chosen Esteve over Rodon. And then in terms of the rest, I mean, if you look at this, Munoz comes in, and this defense is so good because obviously Gabriel's just Gabriel. He's got DEFCON potential and all that attacking upside, and he really can score a goal. I mean, he's practically plays right wing at times and function as an inside forward, hitting that last line at times. So he's got a haul waiting for him. Between Wolves at home, Everton away, Sunderland at home, there's a clean sheet in there, and there's a clean sheet with DEFCON and maybe some bonus. 9 pointer, 10 pointer. Even if the others, he gets DEFCON in 1, 13, another 2 appearance points, 15, 555. So solid at that price, right? So really happy with Anderson here. And then the rest, just, same as yesterday. And then again here, the defense doesn't change, except in game week 11, I will consider this bench boost quite strongly. Good chance for DEFCON, I guess decent chance for DEFCON. Obviously, I don't want them playing against Bowen in particular, but it's still not a bad opportunity for them in isolation, whereas Rodon had a lead, Forest away. I don't think he cleans there. King away Everton, not super ideal, but, it's not the worst bench boost you've ever seen, considering Senesi's on it. If not then, this. Right, West Ham at home, better. And this could be the week where I start to make some sales. If I don't go Salah, right, I could move these 3 into Isaac and Wirtz and Reinders, which would mean that the bench boost stays the same, except I get the upside of not having Bowen, so playing Senesi. King to Sunderland at home, much better than Everton away. And you look at this and you think, not great. It's not. It's not. We've had our struggles against blocks, though. Maybe he gets 3 points, he gets 4 points. And in the end, if one of these guys does well, it does well. So there's not too much to change for the team. It's mainly just the defensive pairing. This week I'll have double Burnley instead of Pope and Burnley. And then from there on, I'll have Munoz every week. And Sanchez, of course, as well. And you know what? We do have better fixtures than Newcastle. And they've got a lot of away games, tough away games, I'd say. So I'm happy enough with Robert Sanchez, considering the fixtures that you can see on screen. Forest away, not playing him, but then Sunderland at home, Spurs away, not great, but Wolves at home, Burnley away, Arsenal at home, not great, Leeds away, right? 4 out of those 6 very solid. So, yeah, that's that. And now we can move on to talking about some of the other topics in SYP. I will start with Arsenal's attack, which is a brand new attack. And it's one which I find extremely impressive. What's changed? Last season, they didn't have Timber and Calafiori really available in these fullback spots too often, or at least they were not played together too much. Nor did the fullbacks have this type of role. Did they have this fluidity and this freedom? And you can see when Timber's in the final third, when Calafiori's in the final third, when they've generally made advancements, their combination play, their ability to support the wingers in the wide areas, their competence in the half spaces, even underlaps, really good. And they're causing blocks and just size in general a lot of problems. I think last season, you look at Arsenal and you think about some of the struggles they had against blocks. A lot of what you're expecting from that Arsenal side is Odegaard to break it down, particularly that right-hand side, Odegaard, Saka, Timber. But I don't think Timber and Saka have as good of a relationship as Saka and White. So you're taking a little bit away from Bukayo there. And then Odegaard wasn't really contributing as much. You're getting very little change out of your left winger in this type of system where he was so unsupported, right? He didn't really have, because Lewis Skelly was playing a lot of the games, and he didn't really have the fullback pushing on to offer him another combination, offer him an overlap at times, offer him an underlap just to combine again and play someone through. And Declan Rice was probably playing in a slightly different fashion as well. And you didn't have Zubimendi at the base with his progression and passing, right? So all of that combined, it's definitely better for Arsenal's block-breaking dynamics. Saka obviously had his injury, then he came back from his injury, was sharp for a very short period of time, and then kind of it declined after Real Madrid. So and PSG. So when I look at that, there's huge improvements there. Another thing is now you have Eze in the middle. And I spoke about previously, you'd had Odegaard in the middle, and I think Eze in the middle is just, for me, an upgrade, including against these blocks. He's got this X factor to him, and all of that combined is a beautiful blueprint for Arsenal to blow teams away. A fit, healthy, strong Bukayo Saka who looks hungry, a left winger who's got better dynamics for him now, still not optimized or even close, but better. What you're getting from the fullbacks, just their utility in terms of breaking blocks, great. Eze in the middle, great. Zubimendi at the base to speed up progression, right? You don't need all of the time your right 8, who was Odegaard last time, to drop in to help with progression. Let's say if Partey was there. No, now you can have Zubimendi doing a lot of it. You can keep Rice a little bit higher as such. It's great. And another thing is what you would see a lot last season. I remember a game against PSG, but Arsenal actually played really well in the group stage. But you see Havertz rotating into these like right 8 like zones, and therefore you're not really ever going to be able to go in behind. The opposition don't have to worry for that because there's no one there to exploit the space or even close. There's no one to occupy the centre backs. There's more limited options. It takes more to get up the pitch. Whereas even though GYOKERES hasn't been particularly prolific, nor has he been the sharpest in the box, his presence and the fact that he's always willing to stretch and run in behind creates pockets. It makes sure that someone's at least got to mark him, if not two, in close proximity, just to block the space. And all of a sudden, there's a bit more freedom for the other guys. So whilst directly he's not impacting too much, he still had some good moments. Like he had some good moments against Newcastle. I think he's adapting to the physicality better. Mainly it's just the goals haven't come, right? And the combination play is not as great. But what he's providing that Arsenal side with, as opposed to Havertz dropping deep, who had his own skill set, and I still think he's a better player. But nonetheless, against blocks in particular, it's I think, making a difference. So yeah, with all that being said, I can see Arsenal, who usually, when they go away to Fulham, have a very challenging time. I think they could beat them and beat them quite convincingly, especially with Robinson out. Much harder to contain Bukayo Saka. Sasa Lukic is also out. They don't have a recognised number 9. Against Bournemouth, you see no recognised number 9. What happens? They try to go long at times. They lost every duel. And because their 3 forwards almost have to play deeper to come to receive them, well, it requires a lot then to get you up the pitch. And what did Bournemouth do? Counter press, right? As they do, won the ball back, and they just pinned them again and again and again and again. And it's going to be even harder against Arsenal. So I think Arsenal have a lot of the ball, and they've got more than enough to break that block. I really wouldn't be surprised if they scored 3, or maybe even a little bit more. That's that. On to GYOKERES himself, right? I do not think that these 2 games, the Fulham one and the Palace one, are particularly suitable for it. But I'm so bullish on the Arsenal attack that I can see them still making chances for him. Now, whether he's good enough to put it away in the box, because it's not really going to be that transitional type, that played in behind type, that hit in the channel type, or at least when there's a lot of space to exploit. It's not going to be that type. So does he score goals? I think what you're looking at is a very limited ceiling. It's unlikely he's going to bag 2 for you, but you never know. You might get lucky and you might get 1, but you are kind of hoping. Would I sell? In certain cases, yes. I mean, like if you feel really good about Bowen this week, if you don't have JP and you would like him, go ahead. If you really like Bukayo Saka and you have 2 free transfers and you want to get him and Bowen or Voltemada, or you want the cash for something else, I get it. I think it's feasible. Obviously, the prospects against Burnley and Sunderland are very different, but Mikel Merino probably doesn't start that game because, especially if GYOKERES hasn't scored, wonderful time for him to get on the score sheet and get some confidence and momentum. But maybe an early sub, right? And that's probably not what you'd want when he's already not firing. And as a forward, the season's a little bit more limited. So if you did want to do it, I don't think anyone can hold it against you. But equally, if you're holding in the position you're in now, if you want a little bit more information, if you want to give him one more go, I don't mind it. I do think though that like Saka or Eze could haul in this game. I really do. And that brings me on beautifully onto my next point, which is Saka's ceiling. It's really challenging with him because I think something we always associate with him, something he's had is such a high floor, right? So consistent in his returns when he's fit. It's just been those big hauls, the Salah-like hauls, the Palmer-like hauls, the Bruno-like hauls, the Foden-like hauls that seem to have evaded him. Not all the time. West Ham away was a wonderful example last season. Very enjoyable captaincy, particularly considering they all came in that first half. But going back to the point, outside of that, there's not as many. There was the Southampton one last season, which is a very enjoyable captaincy again, when he got, a goal and 2 assists. That was also great. But we don't see it too often, as much as we do with the other boys. I do think, however, maybe if it's to keep penalties and Arsenal to attack like this, then he could get it. Because he had a penalty against West Ham, right? He also had a disallowed goal, which is quite close. He had a couple other moments here or there where he could have got returns. I'm not so sure that like that West Ham side are going to be much worse than what Fulham were. They might even cause them a little bit, have caused Arsenal a little bit more problems. And I know that sounds weird to say considering what Fulham have put up at Craven Cottage. But no Sasa Lukic, no Anthony Robinson, with Odegaard not starting. I really fancy Arsenal for this. Then going to the defence. Look, I think Timber's great. And like I spoke about in yesterday's video, and EYN in some depth, I think he's great. I'll quickly repeat my point. I've obviously spoken about the attacking upside that he can have, the advancements into the final third, and his competence in there, and the freedom and the volume freedom in which he has in the role, and the volume in which he does it. It's great, right? I have nothing bad to say about Timber. I just think with Eze's explosive capabilities, and same with Saka now, in the light that we're viewing him, they might be better options. I don't think you can absolutely 100% bank, even with his role, Timber getting an attacking return. But if Arsenal are to put the other side under so much pressure, I think with Eze and Saka, you're obviously looking at it far more. Will they keep clean sheets? Yeah, I mean, like if they kept 3 out of the next 4, I'd say that's very, very feasible considering their quality. But given that he's not super likely to get DEFCON, the one thing I can think of is if higher up the pitch, Arsenal are counter-pressing a lot, and he is someone who mentally is certainly willing to engage in the duel. Maybe he gets it through that. But if not, then you don't really have DEFCON. You're more so relying on attacking returns, which can be a little bit spread, I guess, in that side. So, it's not like a Daniel Munoz. Then all of a sudden, like Saka and Eze, who are only just one game away from that big haul, I think maybe they could be better. But look, Timber can also haul really big. There's a lot of things going for him. If he went there, I'd get it. I just think there's a bit more upside, especially because he's not a DEFCON monster. So is Gabriel avoidable? Honestly, yeah. I think it's fine to go Timber over him. I really don't mind it. I just think occasionally, even maybe less than occasionally, once or twice over a long stretch, White starts over him. And you wouldn't want that. Whereas Gabriel, is he ever getting rested? Probably not, right? Especially when they're gunning for the league and they're favourites right now. Probably not. He just plays every game. And he's still a bigger threat from set pieces. Open play, he doesn't have that. But set pieces and, of course, DEFCON, which is such a big deal. Because Timber gets an assist. Oh, if Gabriel's got DEFCON, it's only one less point, right? There's the bonus kicks in and stuff. Agreed. But, Timber still has to get that assist. Whereas Gabriel getting DEFCON is more so just him doing his job and like the other team going kind of long, or him just engaging in a lot of duels, aerial duels in particular. So that's that. From North London to West London, Arsenal to Chelsea assets, starting with the biggest talking point in the blue squad for FPL this game week, and that is Enzo Fernandez. Now, he was not pictured in any of the 50 training pictures that there were today. He also pulled out the IB. He hasn't posted anything on Instagram, which apparently he normally does, according to FPL Harry on X, which is certainly useful information. So it's not exactly looking very good. Now, the good thing for you, if you want him, really want him, is that tomorrow it's an away game, right? So he has to get off the bus, walk past the cameras if he's going to be there. If he's not there, well, then he's not playing. And if he is there, well, then I guess there's a decent chance he starts if he's actually going to be on the bus and he's going to be there. He could come off the bench. It just doesn't really seem like an Enzo type of thing to do. I mean, both Maresca and Enzo Fernandez for both of them in the way that he's used. So I think you'll maybe get a leak. Let's just say you don't, right? What do? I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't take the risk. I don't think it's necessarily. For us, a good fixture. Actually, it's quite a good fixture for him. I quite like it. Maybe out of all of them, it's one of the ones that I'd be most looking forward to actually catching a bigger haul. But I wouldn't risk it, especially if you're selling someone like Njai, penalties, DEFCON, maybe he plays on his preferred side. If he gets a goal and DEFCON, right, you're looking at like a 12-pointer just from one goal. You wouldn't want to sell that for a guy who might not even be there. And who knows, worst case, he's not even there for Sunderland. Then what are you going to do, right? You're not going to be too happy about that. So that's something to consider. Regardless, let's just put his fitness aside for a second and talk about him as a player. You'll obviously have seen that he's the big omission on my wildcard draft. Pretty much everyone has him on a wildcard, but I do not. So why? And let's look at his strengths firstly. 1, box crashing. Really, really, really good at that. 2, the fact that he's got set pieces as an FPL asset is super useful. And 3, the fact that he's the most advanced of the midfield 3 on paper. For me, however, though, right, when you have the most advanced midfielder and the fact that we're coming up against deeper blocks in the next few games, for most of them at least, right, you want a number 10 like Cole Palmer. You want to be able to put the ball into him between the lines. and then they use their capabilities to essentially manufacture something for the team, get a shot off, generate goals and assists like that. He's not that player, right? He's always been part of a double pivot or a 4-3-3 where he's a passer, like a deep lying passer. He's not been this number 10 like player that Enzo Maresca sees him as. And he also doesn't have the exact qualities that you'd want in that sense. And I think that's one reason why, in terms of his shot volume or the volume in general to get attacking returns, is quite low for him because it's not his game, right? Obviously, if he's going to crash the box, then great. But outside of that, it's kind of difficult for him to get returns and seeing a route to goals. Now, of course, against the worst sides, right, you expect us to create more. If he's there's a decent chance he can return, get a shot off in a way that he wouldn't maybe against a harder opposition and score. Yeah, of course, and he's obviously got quality. So that could all happen. I just don't think it's super likely with what we've seen so far. I've obviously spoken about the volume of opportunities without crashing. And another thing is, like I said, this is a deep lying playmaker. This is a deep lying passer. He helps a lot with progression from deeper areas. I wouldn't say he has the attacker's mind outside of the crash in the box, which is great. I wouldn't say he has that attacker's mind as well when he's in between the lines, which he doesn't even find himself stationed too much, right? And then I look at the games. Let's say he's out for Forest. All right, that's one of the good fixtures gone. And then it's what? Sunderland at home, Spurs away, Wolves at home, Burnley away. That's a really good set of fixtures overall, especially for attacking returns. That's a really, really good set of fixtures. But I wouldn't say they stylistically suit him. I think they suit JP more in this Chelsea side, where, for example, against Brighton, against Liverpool, he's having to come deeper, drop, receive, carry, and get up the pass off. Now, because we'll have more of the ball, he can stay there. He can pin the centre-backs a little bit more. We can manufacture something with the 1v1 threat we have now. Estevao, Garnacho, we haven't always had that available to ourselves. With that, and then you could see some more crosses into him. You could just see some more creative play into him. And just him being there with the quality of 9 years, I think he's more likely to get returns. So that's essentially why I'm picking JP over Enzo Fernandez. In terms of having both, I wouldn't, because I just don't think our current block-breaking dynamics are good enough to justify having both. I don't think there's enough ceiling there with us. I don't think we're going to score 4, whereby both could do really well. And even if we scored 3, there's still a spread of output. Maybe Reece, but Cucurella, Caicedo, Enzo, Garnacho, Estevao, JP. You get the draw, right? So that's that. There was one other thing I wanted to add. And it wasn't penalties, but I do think João Pedro was going to be on penalties. If you ask anyone at the bridge, for the Fulham game, they will tell you that JP kind of handed him the ball in a way like, there you go, mate, you can take this one, because he wasn't too happy on the day, Enzo, especially with the fans. There was one more thing, but maybe it's a good thing that I didn't say, and it's past my mind. So that's that. That's that on the attacking and Enzo Fernandez, JP front. In terms of our defense, we've looked so susceptible so many times. If you look at the games, right, Liverpool could have scored way more than they did. United could have done so in the first half as well. Brighton obviously put 3 past us. We had a red card, but even in the first half, in these transitions, there were moments, right? There were moments where they looked so dangerous with Minter, particularly on their right. So that's that. Even Brentford, look what happened in the first half. Much better in the second, but look what happened in the first. Benfica, Reece wasn't playing, right? But still, they caused us many problems. They easily could have been leading in that first half. And with our system, we're always open to being hurt on the counter-attack with teams who are good in transition, especially those long-distance, quick vertical transitions. You also have a back line, which isn't the most transition-proof, right? I think it's better when we have Reece or maybe Fofana, but I wouldn't say I want him at central centre-back, prefer him at right centre-back, but him and Reece can't really coexist, and you have that. Apparently, Badiashiel's injured, so we're not going to have a natural left-sided centre-back as well. So I think at times we can get hurt there. But our luck factor this season, I'd say, in that sense, has actually been pretty good. We should have conceded maybe a few more than we have done. The fixtures are really good, so we're going to concede less chances and less of those transitions, because one of the reasons it's easier is the oppositions don't have that weapon, or /weapons, and Lavia is back, and Santos is back, and Reece is fit, right? So it's a very stable core to have. I mean, say Reece right centre-back, Lavia and Caicedo in front protecting, Santos to come off the bench for some energy if Lavia gets tired. That's a lot better, right? That's a lot better. Chalobah's there. Ashpong's there. Fofana's there, right? That's pretty decent. Tossin's back fit as well, okay? So all of a sudden, against sides who maybe don't hurt us as much in transition because they can't, Spurs aside, Forest aside, the other 3, but maybe we keep clean sheets. So that is something to consider. In terms of Chalobah for DEFCON, these aren't the type of games where you're really looking at getting DEFCON, and he's not like he's a monster in that sense. And if he's playing on his left side, he'd probably be more cautious to step into the duel and like engage so quickly, as opposed to usual. So that is something you want to consider. I personally wouldn't go there. Then to conclude, the last slide, which includes 2 different sections. And there are 5 players here that I thought were just important to speak about, considering people's preferences for buying, selling, wanting information on them. First is Bruno Fernandes. I just don't like the role he's playing, right? But saying that, in this Liverpool game, you're really expecting him to hit DEFCON. I mean, part of a midfield 2 away at Anfield, you should be engaging in a lot of duels. And as such, the base of 4 points isn't so bad when you consider if he gets an assist, he's on for 2 bonus at least, 9 pointer, just from an assist. Think about the moment he's catching Liverpool in as well. So I really don't mind it. Still probably got penalties as well. I like Bukayo Saka's ceiling though. That's something I spoke about. So if this is your route to Bukayo Saka, I don't mind it. It's also going to save you maybe having to go early if Saka's going to rise, should he haul in this game. So I don't mind it. And at the end of the day, it's still United. It's not the best role, and it's still Liverpool, right? I do think they can take something off him, but you got to account for that. So I think he's sellable, but I just don't think it's as much of a necessity as some have made out. Voltemada, the only concern I have with him is the ceiling, right? Just because he doesn't look super prolific yet. He doesn't look as ruthless as Haaland. I know pretty much no one is. But you can still imagine like JP getting a haul. You can imagine Bowen getting a haul, maybe a bit more. Mateta when he's on song and not massively underperforming his numbers. He's actually been very good. It's just underperforming. And a couple of others as well, to be fair. Even Isaac, Ekitike, right? Because I don't think I've seen that just quite yet. And one reason for that maybe just be Newcastle's attack, no Livramento, and especially no Hall on that flank, right? So when Bowen exists, who we come on to beautifully next, I think I would go with the latter, pay the money, because you're getting, honestly, a more reliable asset as well. His numbers every season are incredible. He's now got Paquetá, he's got Somerville, he's got Matthias Fernandes even from midfield as well. If Souček comes into the side, he's got a good relationship with him. He's got Callum Wilson as well, real quality. And they have the fixtures, right? And they have definitely, undoubtedly, have better fixtures than Newcastle. And I'd say the ceiling with Bowen maybe a bit higher as well. So, I'd go there. Neither on penalties. Voltemada more so, because I guess you can expect an earlier Gordon sub. But still, like, he's not the one on penalties. In terms of Gordon himself, who's not listed there, it's very similar to Voltemada. I think just given Newcastle aren't creating too much, and given Gordon hasn't hit this streak yet of like returning quite consistently, I think the ceiling's a little bit limited. Like, you're not really expecting a goal and assist. You haven't seen that in a long time from him. So for now, I'd say avoid. If he catches fire, then you can start to get on. But you're not going to miss out too much if their ceilings aren't so high. Ismail Assar, I get what people mean about saying like, oh, you can wait till game week 10. But if you want him this week and you're willing to bench him next week, I think he's perfectly acquirable. And even Arsenal, like, best defense in the world in my opinion, but not completely impenetrable. And Palace are probably one of the best sides to hurt them, right? That's what Glasner wants. He wants other sides to come onto him, which Arsenal will do more than others. Mateta, Sam, and Yoz, Pino, who's looked really good so far, they can hurt you. Wharton's passing. So I think if you want to buy him, like say it was him or Enzo, and you don't think Enzo's fit and you want to buy him, okay, do it. Especially because it's a very long-term move. I don't think Rangers needs to be sold, right? Like Everton at home is fine. They haven't been super sharp defensively by any stretch. It's not quite what we've remembered in the past. So, this guy, like I've said, I think there's somewhat of a temperament issue in the final third. Not in a bad way, not like that. Not like he gets angry and starts fights, but just a little bit too snappy for me with his choice of actions. But in those transitional moments, can definitely hurt you. And it's not like he's incapable of returning when it's slowed down and the block's more settled, right? And very good long-term value. And the harder fixtures for him, I actually think might be a little bit better. Those transitional moments, right? The moments where it's just all quick, very vertical. Think of the goal at Arsenal, right? That's not really going to happen in a game where the opposition's so deep in a 5-4-1 at Burnley or at home to Liverpool. That's that. Benching dilemmas. Njai, I'd probably start him. I think Grealish maybe plays on the left, preferred side. Penalties. Defcon's the big thing. I wouldn't maybe say start him if he didn't have that Defcon. But hypothetically, right, if he is to play on the left, okay, then you get the increased goal threat, I'd say, from him being there. But if he's playing on the right, well, then he has to contend with Doku, right? And you're definitely going to want to double up with your winger for him. So Defcon, really good chance, I would say, this game. And that's just a great floor to have at that price. Burnley versus Leeds, I can see this going like anyway. Part of the reason I'm playing Dubravka and Estev is kind of the fact that my hand's been slightly forced this game week with how I want to set my team up down the line, basically 9 and beyond. If you want to play Rodon, I think they have good enough players, Leeds, to go there and get a result. If you want to play Burnley, I think they have good enough players to get a result as well, especially because they're at home and Parker mentioned a slightly different approach and focusing on the defensive side a bit more and not being so open. So, that's that. He didn't say not being so open, but I guess it's implied. If I were to give a conclusion, I guess I'm playing Dubravka and Estev, so I have to say that. But, if I had Rodon and the Leeds keeper and goal, would I mind too much? No, not really. It's just the fact they're away. I don't really like it too much. Ideally, though, if you can, I think like a Palace defender, an Arsenal defender, and someone else ahead of Rodon would be great. But if you have to play, whatever. Spurs defenders, I think Villa score. Very dependent on what you get out of Watkins. Like if he's fit, okay, then I think they're more likely to score. They've won 4 on the bounce. Rodgers had a good IB. Watkins did get a goal in the IB as well. So Anana's back. So there'll be a much more positive buzz, right? They'll be feeling a lot better about themselves. They're not doing too bad in the league table now anyway. So with that being said, I expect them to score. Spurs will certainly give you a chance. And as such, yeah, I'd probably bench him if I can. That is all she wrote for this one, ladies and gentlemen. What you can see on screen is not my starting 11 for the wildcard this game week. This is my starting 11 for the wildcard this game week. That's probably what it looked like in game week 9, though. And I really like the team. I'm really happy with it. Usually, my team ratings on Fantasy Football Hub are not so high, considering some of the decisions I make. So to get a 98%, I feel very good about that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a very fun game week. Thanks so much for all your support throughout the week. I hope that you have a great game week, and I shall see you on the other side for an exciting transfer plans, where I'm sure there'll be a lot to talk about. Good luck and goodbye.